What is up, guys? Welcome back to another amazing episode of Psycho Gamer. I am your host, Aubrey, and today we are going to go over the top 10 fighting games we would love to see Arcade1up release. Now, we're not going to use many of the newer games because obviously they're still in arcades or they're still being sold. So we're going to be looking at something that, in most cases about 10 years or older, give or take a couple years. So we're going to go ahead and go down a list of some of the games that I would like to see, and hopefully you would actually like to see some of them as well. So stay tuned, smash that like, smash that subscribe, and we're going to be right back with you in just a moment. Welcome back, guys. Now, like I mentioned, we are going to be going over 10 top fighting games that I would love to actually see released by Arcade1up. Now, we're going to try to make sure that most of the games that we're going to have in here came out prior to 2010. There might be one or two stragglers that are in there. Because I know a lot of the arcade machines after that are probably still being used, and probably would be very difficult for them to actually get the rights to be able to release them onto their arcade cabinets. So, first game that we're going to be looking at right now, which, just a little side note, there may be some on here that may not have been released in the arcade, but on console, but it would be cool to really see them released on arcade. So first game we're going to be looking at is going to be Soul Calibur 3. Soul Calibur 3 was released in 2005, obviously by Namco. So the Soul Blade series has been an amazing series since the early days of, say, PlayStation. Soul Blade, Soul Calibur 1, 2, 3, and they're all the way up to, I think, 6. So there's been many different iterations of Soul Calibur that people really, really love. It's something about the characters people can just click with, and the gameplay is fun. The gameplay is fluid, and the animation is just beautiful when it comes to those particular games. So we're going to take a look right now at Soul Calibur 3. Now, moving on to number 9, two names in this next particular game are well known throughout the gaming world. So, I'm sure many of you have heard of a character named Heihachi and Jin Kazama. So, we are going to be adding Tekken Tag Tournament Part 1 to the list in the number 9 slot right here. Now, Tekken Tag Tournament was a great game where you could actually switch out your characters. It was really one of the first Tekken games to be able to do that. Now, before that, Tekken 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 5 were only one-on-one, one-on-one, where you just basically it's a beatdown brawl. This particular game ended up getting it where you can switch out your characters in mid-match, kind of like many of the Marvel Versus games. So it really added a different style of gameplay to the Tekken series, which myself used to go to one of my friends' houses in California, and a lot of us would battle out in Tekken Tag Tournament. So if you haven't seen Tekken Tag Tournament, because it's been out since 1999, 20 years since that game has come out, and games have really come a long way. You really need to take a look at this trailer for the opening intro for Tekken Tag Tournament. Number 8 on our list is going to be another one of the Versus games, obviously. Because majority of the games that were amazing back in this particular time period were many of the Versus games, like Marvel vs. Capcom and SNK vs. Capcom, many of the different ones out there. Now, speaking of SNK vs. Capcom, that is going to be our number 8. SVC Chaos, SNK vs. Capcom Chaos. Came out in 2003 by SNK. So it was a great brawler. It was one of the only ones that was actually released where SNK did all the art style. So if you wanted to actually have Terry Bogard versus Guile, or Terry versus Ryu or Ken, or any of those main characters from the Street Fighter series, you actually were able to do that. So the art style in this was actually really good. There were some people that weren't really big fans of this particular game because of the direction of the art style. But for many people that were fans of fighting games in general, just the plain fun, really, really liked this particular game. Now, it's going on 20 years old. It hasn't quite hit 20 years old. But if you haven't had a chance to play it either in an arcade or in, say, one of the consoles it was released for, then this would be one I would really like to see in the arcades, because I think it could introduce a whole new fighting game genre to many people for your 2D, your 2.5D kind of fighting games. So stay tuned. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the intro for SNK vs. Capcom.
SNK vs Capcom. Battle, Tekken Drop!
All right, number 7 on our list is coming in as something that is a non-versus title. It is pretty much one of the main Street Fighter games back in the 90s that people really, really liked. We are talking about Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Came out in 1999. Now, one of the reasons why I put this over SNK versus Capcom is more because of the art style. Now, while yes, SNK did a great job at releasing SNK versus Capcom, this particular game, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, the animation was much nicer and the gameplay was still amazing. Now, we are talking a game that was released 4 years prior to SNK versus Capcom. So, I think a lot of people really liked how this particular game went because it was one of the main Street Fighter games that came out for a few years after that. So check this out, guys. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Love the game.
Street Fighter 3.
Now, number 6 is coming in as one of our later additions in terms of fighting games. This game was released in 2010, and it was more well known on the console than it was in the arcades because there's not as many arcades floating around these days as there once were. So we are talking about Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, released on the more current PlayStations and Xbox consoles that people really can just go and buy. However, the consoles aren't going to give you the same look and same feel as going and sitting in an arcade and actually playing them. Now, many of the arcade games that were released, they were console in a cabinet more than anything else. They looked like this big white thing that had just a little bit of art on it. Well, not like your old art styles for some of the old games, such as, you know, your Pac-Mans and your Street Fighter 2 and things like that as well. So the ability to find this game to actually even play it in the arcade is a little more difficult. So that's why I think it would be a good addition to one of the Arcade1up cabinets. Now, many of the games that I've gone over, they could do 2 or 3 of them, if not 4 of them, in the actual cabinets, much like they're doing with the Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and the X-Men vs. Street Fighter cabinets. So it really wouldn't be impossible to do, but some of these games, they just have to configure the actual controls to them and make them where they're actually going to work better in an arcade setting, which really shouldn't be too hard because they've already got the programming for a majority of those out there. It's just a matter of integrating it into their own systems. So that's going to do it for this half. The video is going to run very long because I am putting many of these trailers and opening sequences for these games in here. So I hope you stick around for part 2 to be released. So make sure you do smash that like, smash that subscribe, guys. Come back for the next one. I love all of you. I appreciate you coming to watch me. And remember, guys, game on.